ever heard of someone being pixie-led? It sounds like fun, scampering through a sun-dappled wood without a care in the world, linking arms with singing, playful pixies. Nope. I have a startling true experience to show you, which proves just how terrifying the experience of being pixie-led can be. The Pixies of South-West England shatter that stereotype of cute, cheeky fairies. Pixies of Cornwall and Devon are well known for leading people astray, off their intended path and into woodland, bog or lake, or up and down a mountain or back and forward through a valley. It's not uncommon for a sudden heavy mist accompanied by inexplicable lights, often described as will-o'-the-wisp lights, to add to the sense of confusion and fear. Reports of being led astray are not restricted to visitors or tourists either. Even locals, those who know the landscape like the back of their hands, have fallen victim to the pixies. Forced to trudge through woods and water or through bogs and lakes, some have drowned or died from exhaustion or exposure to the cold in their efforts to find their way back to safety. Take a look at this published account of an experience of a local man. This wild tract of land, as well as other parts of Devonshire and Cornwall, is considered to be haunted by creatures called pixies. They are said to delight in solitary places, to love pleasant hills and pathless woods, or to disport themselves on the margins of rivers and mountain streams. Some years ago, a local man, the late Edward Smith, became enveloped in mist whilst endeavouring to make his way from a stream where he had been fishing across Mistore with a view to shorten his road to Princetown on the moor. He'd not advanced more than 1/4 of a mile in his ascent when he was suddenly enveloped in a cloud, dense, dark and flaky, that it startled him. On every side appeared whirling masses of mist, of so thick a consistency that it affected his very breathing. He paused, but thinking it would be impossible to err in walking in a straight line over the summit of a hill, continued to advance. But in this the experienced Smith was deceived. The way seemed to lengthen before him. At length he saw a few of those immense fragments of granite with which the summit of the tor was strewed. Their appearance through the fog was wonderfully grand, wavy, fantastic, and as if possessing life, although even with the surface, such was the deception, they appeared upright, each in succession perpendicular, until he arrived so close that it required almost the very touch to prove the deception. There were also some scattered sheep, one here and one there, at the distance of 20 or 30 yards, for he could distinguish nothing further. They had the appearance of a moving, unshapen mass, infinitely larger than reality. Every now and then one of these animals would start from the side of a block of granite close to his feet, affrighted, sometimes with a screaming bleat, as if, like himself, filled with surprise and awe. When, as he believed, he had gained the summit, Smith stood still and looked about him. There was above, beneath, and all around a mass, flaky and at times even rushing, of white fog. He sat down to rest, feeling unable to walk on. His situation was now painful, and the evening rapidly approaching. The fog increased in murkiness, and all hopes he had that it would clear away were vanished. He looked around for some large fragments of stone, under the shelter of which he could take some rest for the night. From the exertion he had been hot, even to excess, but was now shivering and chilled. So at length he endeavoured to proceed. The ground began to incline, and he found himself descending at a very steep angle. He heard the distant rushing of water, and that sound enlivened him. It was like the voice of a guide and friend, and he pressed onward, when suddenly, so instantaneously that he could compare it to nothing but the lifting up of a veil, the fog rushed from him, and the scene which opened up made him doubt his very senses. At his feet, the river Walcombe brawled amongst the rocks scattered throughout its bed. On his left was just sufficient of the hamlet of Merivale open to show the eastern arch of its picturesque bridge, whilst in the distance the fantastic rocks of Vixen Tor were still wreathed in mist. At his right, within 200 or 300 yards, was the very spot he had first quitted to ascend the mountain, and in front arose one of those grand and lofty tors which render the moor so striking. It was dark and frowning, its topmost ridges blanketed in clouds, whose summits were gilded by the broad sun now rapidly descending behind them. The whole scene was like magic. Even whilst looking on it, it appeared to him as a dream. He then realised that during a space of 2.5 hours, he had walked up the mountain, taken a complete circuit of its summit, and almost retraced his steps in his descent. Such had been the deception of this most dangerous, malicious mist. Now it is known that a fog or a mist can naturally descend in that region very quickly, and it can prove dangerous to both locals and those unaccustomed to it. But there is much more to Edward Smith's experience than just the mist. By his own account, he appears to have almost entirely lost his senses. Not only his bearings, but his mind also faced confusion about the animals and the landmarks around him. These are things that he would have seen almost every day of his life. I think the most interesting element to his experience, in addition to the confusion, was the sense of distress he clearly felt, the sense that there was something unnatural about the experience. Smith made it clear that he had no doubt he'd been led astray and almost killed by the Pixies. But why would they do this? Is it just for laughs? I can imagine that watching a clumsy human trudging around the place in a panic and not understanding their surroundings, not listening, not smelling or sensing the environment around them, well, it might prove a humorous sight for the fairies. Or does it demonstrate just a general disdain towards us? Or could it be revenge on a specific person? Maybe the pixies of Cornwall and Devon aren't so cute and cheeky after all. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, see those names on the screen now? They're my gorgeous patrons. It's their support that keeps this channel going. And if you'd like to become a patron too, just check out the link in the notes below. Until next time, stay curious and be kind. Cheerio!